What's going on, guys? In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add a global favorites list. And now of course you can always add favorites in Hyperspin very easily per system, but if you want to have a global favorites, this is what you have to do. This method will also let you add collections, so if you want to do like a Mario collection or a Sonic collection or something like that, it's the same process to do so. So the first thing you want to do is you want to open up Rocket Launcher. And once that is open, you're going to go over here and you're going to click on the little green plus sign over here, and you're going to give your system a name. In my case, I'm going to name it favorites. If you wanted to add a collection or whatever else, you would just give it whatever name you want. So like Sonic collection, Mario collection, whatever. So I'm going to name it favorites. And then on this drop down here, you're going to select where in the wheel you want it, meaning after which system or before which system do you want it. I'm just going to put it right at the top right here, right before search. So it's the first thing that comes up when I start up Hyperspin. I'm going to uncheck that and I'm going to click next. And I'm going to leave that blank, click next, leave that blank, next. And then for database, if you have one of my systems, you're actually going to leave it as no database. If you don't have one of my systems, easiest thing to do is just to select a database from another system to have a sort of as a template. So you're going to click on import a database from a file, and then right here you click on the magnifying glass, and let's say you go to where you have your databases. In my case, I have a shortcut right here, so I'm going to select databases, and I'm going to choose something nice and small that doesn't have a lot of games like AAE. And I'm going to click, you always click on the one that has the system name. So AAE.xml, and you would do that way. I'm going to click next and finish. Click yes, click OK. And then over here on the left, you're going to see that you have a new system called favorites. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and minimize a Rocket Launcher. And I'm going to open up a folder here. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to databases. And I'm going to look for favorites. So let's go ahead and open favorites, and inside there you're going to see favorites.xml. Now if you open that up, you're going to see that it actually has the AAE database because that's the one we selected before. So for somebody that doesn't have one of my systems, this is what you would do. If you do have one of my systems, don't do any of this right now because you have a different thing that you have to do. So basically what you want to do is you want to get rid of all these games because we're not going to add all these games to our favorites, right? So you basically start right here at the bottom, leaving this last menu tag there. Everything above it, you select it, you go all the way up, and you go all the way up to this first game tag here, and then you can delete all of that. Notice I left header and menu at the end here. If you space over a few times, you can just paste all your new games right here. So you can save that like that. And now you can paste all of your new games right in there. Now, if you have one of my systems, let me go ahead and close all this stuff. If you have one of my systems, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go over here to databases, and you're just going to delete the favorites all together. Just delete it. And up here, you're going to find a folder called template. You're just going to right click that, copy, and then right click the white space here and click paste. Scroll up. Windows likes to do that. So I'm going to right click the copy and I'm going to rename it, and make sure you give it the exact name that you called your system in Hyperspin. So in our case, it's going to be favorites. And boom, there you go. Now when you go in there, you're going to have some databases that I created for you. Now this one says change to system name. So I'm going to right click that one, and again, oops. I'm going to right click that one and I'm going to do rename. Make sure you don't do delete. All right, so I'm going to call it favorites as well. Enter. And then I'm going to open that database up. And you can see that in here, I already cleared everything up. And I have these notes here that say paste game below this line and paste game above this line. So basically anywhere in here, you'll be fine. All right, so now let's say you want to add a game from Super Nintendo. You go to File, Open, and you select Databases over here on the left. I have a nice shortcut. If you don't have one of my systems, just go to where you have your databases. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to look for Super Nintendo. And I'm going to open that folder up. And remember that it's always the one with the system name. So you want to select this one down here, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. and you have all your games. So let's say you want to add this game here. Now this might look intimidating, but it's pretty simple. You always have an opening tag and a closing tag. If you actually click on an opening tag like game right here, you can see that the closing tag highlights. So if you click on this description tag, the closing tag also highlights. So what you want to do is you want to copy everything from this opening game tag to this closing game tag. You can see that they're both almost the same, except the closing game tag has a / and a greater than sign at the end, where this one does not have that. So point is, you're going to copy that entire entry from here all the way down to right there. All right, make sure you don't leave out anything like the greater than or anything like that, because then your database will not work. So right click on there, copy. I'm going to go back to my favorites database and just paste it anywhere between these two lines. And now I have that game in this database. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to select a different game. Let's say this game here. Again, I'm just going to copy from game to game, copy that, paste it in here. It doesn't matter if you do it alphabetically, because Hyperspin is going to display it alphabetically anyway, whether you do it here or not. And it doesn't matter if you leave spaces between entries like that. All right. So let's say now you want to select the game from a different system. Let's do, I don't know, go back to your databases and do Sony PlayStation, let's say. Look for the database with the system name once again. There it is. Open up. And once again, you're going to select a game from game to game. All right, so let's select this one here. And I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go over here to favorites, and I'm going to paste it. Now, notice that the formatting on this one is a little bit different than this one, but it doesn't matter. More or less it's the same thing. You always have an opening game tag and a closing game tag. All right, so now that you have those 3 games in there, we need to add one line to each of these entries. So that line, we're going to add it after clone of, just to keep things consistent. So you want to click at the end of that line, and then you want to hit enter. And then you're going to do less than sign, EXE, greater than, and then here you have to write the exact system name. So we know that these first 2 games were from Super Nintendo, and this one was from Sony PlayStation. So right here, you're going to write Super Nintendo, but you can't just write Super Nintendo or SNES. It has to match the exact name of the system, which we still have that database open over here. So you can see it's Super Nintendo Entertainment System. That's what you have to write in there. Okay, and then you do less than less than / EXE greater than. So again, you have your opening tag and your closing tag. If you click on the first opening tag, you can see that the closing tag highlights, and you know you did it correctly. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this whole line right here. Make sure you don't leave any characters out. And I'm gonna go over here to clone of for this game, hit enter to create a new line, and I'm gonna paste that. And that works because this is also a Super Nintendo Entertainment System game. Now I'm going to go over here and do it to the PlayStation game. I'm going to just paste that, but I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to type in Sony PlayStation. Make sure you spell it correctly, just like it is right there, same spacing, everything. Okay, so now that you have all 3 games and you specified which system each game is for, you can go ahead and click the little floppy here to save. And that takes care of adding the games to the database. All right, now that you did that, you want to go ahead and go back to Rocket Launcher. So I'm going to open that up right here. I already have favorites selected on the left here. I'm going to go ahead and click the emulators tab. If you're on some other tab, just click the emulators tab. And then here in ROM paths, you have to specify the path to each of those games, not individual games, but the path to each system that you added a game from. So we added 2 Super Nintendo games, 1 Sony PlayStation game. So I'm going to go ahead and click this little plus icon right here, and I'm going to navigate to where I have the games. So it's going to be D, games, and I'm going to look for Super Nintendo. There it is. And I'm going to click OK. So now I have the path to my Super Nintendo games. I'm going to do the same thing for Sony PlayStation. So once again, D, games, Sony PlayStation. If I can find it. There it is. Click OK. And now you have the paths to both of those systems in the ROM paths. If you had a game from Game Gear, you would add Sega Game Gear, so forth and so on. All right, now we're going to go back into one of the folders because there's some other things I want you guys to clean up in here. So if you go back to your main Hyperspin directory here, next up, you're going to go to Media. And if you don't have one of my systems, you don't have to do this part. If you do have one of my systems, go ahead and go over to your new system that you created. In our case, is favorites, and go ahead and delete that folder. And the reason we're doing that is because I have custom settings that I use for the way I want Hyperspin to look that are particular to me and my system. For anybody that does not have my system, you can just keep the default folder that Hyperspin or Rocket Launcher creates for you. So we're going to go back up to the top. Again, I have a template there, so I'm going to right click that one, copy, and then click the white space and paste. Scroll up and rename the copy to the name of your system. Again, in our case, is favorites. And I should also mention, guys, that if you have one of my systems, all this stuff right here is going to be done for you already. So when you add favorites to Rocket Launcher, you're already going to have the correct favorites folder and settings and all of that stuff. I'm showing this here so that you know how to do it from scratch if you want to add another system that is not called favorites, like a Sonic collection, for example. All right, so if we go into favorites, this is what your system is called, right? So you have all your media here and everything that you need. We're going to come back to this in a little bit, but let's go ahead and go back to the main Hyperspin folder. And lastly, we want to go to settings. Again, if you don't have one of my systems, you don't have to do this. If you do, look for favorites in here, delete it, go back up to the top. There's your template. Go ahead and copy it, click the white space, right click the white space, paste, go back to the top, rename the copy to favorites. All right, so all that stuff's been done. Let's go ahead and go back to the main Hyperspin folder here, back to media again, and select your favorites folder. Now, if I start up Hyperspin here, I'm going to show you what it looks like so far. And I'm going to have it in a smaller window just so it's easier to go back and forth. So you can see that your favorites is there, but there's absolutely no artwork. And if you go into favorites, you can see that all the games we added are there. And you can see that they're in alphabetical order, even though we didn't add them in alphabetical order. And if you go ahead and start one, it should start right up. So let's try Three Ninjas. There you go. Let's go ahead and exit. So far you have the games in there, and you're good to go. You can play the games now, but you want to make it look pretty, right? So we're going to take a look at that next. All right, so if I go ahead and back out of here, it takes me back to the main menu, and you can see that there's nothing here at all. So unfortunately, there's no themes out there for like a favorites, so I created my own. And if you were doing something like a Sonic collection or whatever other thing you were trying to add to this that consolidates games from all sorts of systems that are on your Hyperspin system, chances are there might not be a theme for that. Although for things like collections, there are a good amount of themes out there. So just go, Google it, go on the Hyperspin forum and look for them, and I'm sure you'll find something. But for this one, I created my own theme, so I'm going to be adding that in. So I'm just going to go over here to this window. I'm going to open up a new window, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and I'm just going to make believe like I downloaded these from like the Hyperspin forum or somewhere else. All right, so over here on your this window that we left open from before, it's the media specifically for the system. So this is not the main menu media, but since we're already here, I'm going to go ahead and drag the theme over here, which is your default theme. What that means is that any games that you add that don't have their own theme are going to display that theme, and that one you need to be named default.zip. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of how to create themes and stuff like that in this tutorial. So you'll just have to look for those themes online. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this default theme, drag it over here. And now that that one is there, we can go to the main menu and take care of that. So I'm going to go to media. I'm going to look for main menu. And then in here, this is the folder structure where everything is. So for example, video, here's my favorites video. You notice that it has the same name as my system, spelled the same way, spacing if there was any, everything has to be the same. So I'm going to drag favorites over the videos to the video folder. I'm just going to say replace because I already had one there. I'm going to go back to main menu, going to go to themes, and I'm going to drag over my theme, which is a zip file. So I'm going to drag that over. Again, it's named favorites. And then I'm going to go to main menu once again. This time I'm going to go to images and wheel. And then I'm going to drag my wheel image in there. Again, named favorites. So now that all of that is in there, I'm going to go back to Hyperspin. I'm going to go into favorites and back out so it refreshes. And you can see that now I have all the pretty artwork. All right, let's go ahead and back out here. And now I'm going to show you guys how to use a utility that is going to pull up all the artwork from all the different games you've added from their respective systems. So if we go to tools, I have a utility here called Hyperspin Checker. You can download this from the Hyperspin forum, and I'm going to start that up. And in here, you want to select the system you created. So in my case, it's favorites. You want to click on check, and that's going to audit your system and show you what artwork you have and don't have. Of course, we don't have anything right now because if we go into Hyperspin, you can see there's nothing there except for the default theme. That is what the default theme that I added before is, right? But there's no video, there's no wheel image. So we're going to be adding all of that in. So let's go ahead and go back to Hyperspin Checker. And what you want to do, and you're not worried about the ROMs, okay? You don't care if those are saying that they're not found. You don't care about that at all. So what you want to do is you want to click on check media, and we can start right at the top. Let's do check for missing video. Unfortunately, this button here does not work when you click on it to select the path. So what you can do is on the window over here, just navigate to the system that you added a game for, right? So we added Super Nintendo games. So let's go ahead and go to media, Super Nintendo. And in here, we're looking for the video, right? So you click into video, and you just copy this path up here, paste it over here. And you can see that 2 videos popped up for the 2 games we added. So now you click copy found media to appropriate Hyperspin folder, and you're done with that. Now let's go to the next thing. Next thing is wheels. So click on that. Again, you want to specify the path of your wheels. So just back up one time, images, wheel, copy that whole path, paste it in here, and boom, 2 wheels popped up. So again, click on copy found media and go to the next item. Next item is going to be your artworks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are going to be like for your cards and your CD images and stuff like that. Normally they're found under 3 and 4. You can do those, or you can leave them out if you don't want them. Now there's something here that's missing, and that is the theme. So for that one, it's not listed on this drop down for some reason. So you can just click on anything like wheels, for example, and then here you do have themes. So again, we're going to go back all the way to the main Super Nintendo folder. Here's your themes folder. So again, copy the path, paste it in here, and boom, you have a theme that popped up. Click on copy found media to appropriate Hyperspin folder, and it copies it over. Now we also added a Super Nintendo game. So we're gonna go over to the main media folder, look for Sony PlayStation, and for that one, we have a game for that too, right? So we're gonna go to check missing ROMs or media, and then we're gonna select, again, we'll start from the top, do the video. So I'm gonna copy this path by going into video, copy, paste it over here, and there's the video. Next, I'm gonna do the image, wheel, copy that, check for missing wheels, paste it in here, there it is, copy found media, and last I'm gonna do the theme. So you can see, you don't even have to bother with that because you can see that there's no specific game theme here, just defaults. So there is no game theme for any of the games. So you're pretty much done at that point. So let's say we get out of here to refresh, go back in. Now you can see that you have wheel images for all of the games. You have video previews for all of the games. And whatever games had a theme, you will have a theme for that game. All right. Now, just a tip for you guys. Obviously, the easiest way to do this would be to add all your favorite games first. Let's say you had a bunch of games from like Super Nintendo, a bunch of games from, you know, Sega Game Gear, whatever. And then after that, you would come here and do this part. That way, when you go to check for missing media, you specify like the Super Nintendo folders and it just grabs all those games at once. So you don't have to do this like one game by one game by one game. Of course, in the future, if you just add one game at a time, then yeah, you'll have to come in here and do that. But you know, that's not going to be something that you do all that often, I wouldn't think. All right, guys, that is going to be it for this video. I hope that you learned something and that this was helpful, and I will see you guys on the next one.